Welcome back, my students, to the next lesson. And today on Comic Class, we're going to be taking a look at the second story arc in the JLA Grant Morrison run called American Dreams. And yeah, so this episode is going to be fairly quick because there's not that much to talk about because the story arc itself is not very consistent and it's kind of broken up into like 3 different stories. It's a very weird setting, but we're just going to go through each of these stories. I'm going to give you my pros and cons at the very end of the video. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So the first story basically focuses on Dr. Ivo and another scientist kind of doing a competition to see who can make the better creation, Amazo or this new creation called Tomorrow Woman. And so right off the bat, the setup is very simple. It's just a contest between 2 scientists trying to prove who's smarter. And after this, we get to go into the Justice League of America doing some type of registration for new members. And we get to see a ton of new faces. Most iconic probably out of all of them is Supergirl and Plastic Man. We do get to see that Green Arrow is in here as well, and he'll make an appearance in the final portion of this story arc. So, we get to see all these different recruits try to get in to the Justice League of America. Eventually, a woman comes by the name of Tomorrow Woman, and she is the android that was created by Dr. Ivo, I believe. And yeah, so she pretty much meets it into the JLA and begins training immediately with Superman and the rest of the JLA. Now, during a battle with a villain, I believe, or I believe it was some type of heroic in trying to save people, she actually sacrifices herself to make sure everybody is okay. And it's a very cool moment because it shows that her being an android, despite that, she's able to make this decision to give up her own life. And she's actually making her own decisions, as Dr. Ivo says, which is amazing. She overcame her programming. And yeah, so basically Tomorrow Woman basically sacrifices herself, and at the end of the comic issue, we get to see that she gets a statue in memorial of her life, basically her very short life. And the pastor basically tells Superman that he's never buried a robot. More specifically, he's never buried a machine, and Superman says that he didn't after all today, which is a really cool ending to the comic because it shows that Superman didn't care if she was a machine or a human. She did make a human sacrifice, so in his eyes, she was human enough, and it's a pretty good story in itself. It's only 1 issue long, but let's jump into the middle portion of the story arc, which has a lot more to do with the overall theme of it, which is the Fire in the Sky story. So basically the premise of this story is that an angel falls from heaven and he's being kind of followed by some other angels, some fallen angels, I'm guessing, or maybe just regular angels. I'm not sure if it's ever clarified in the story. So basically the main enemy is named Asmodel, I believe, or Asmodel, and the main hero angel is named Zario. So it's pretty cool. We get to see some pretty cool action scenes between Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, and just overall the JLA versus these angels. And they're very powerful, but at the same time, the JLA is very powerful too. So they have a pretty good even fight between each other. Now, eventually, Asmodel gets tired of, all this going on, so he summons this kind of like chariot type machine, and it's so cool. This giant spaceship, and Zario basically says that this is basically the end of the world because they cannot interact with the heavenly realm, basically. Now I'm wondering if we're gonna get more detail about this heavenly realm in a future story arc. I'm really hoping they do, and they don't just make this a one-off thing, because it's very interesting. After this, Asmodel arrives on Earth finally, and he basically is just trying to lay waste to a ton of buildings. People, I'm guessing, have died. He has a pretty unique design with eyes all over his body. You can tell that he's based on biblical scripture, which is pretty cool. He's based on Judeo-Christian angels, I'm guessing, these type of weird-looking angels, which is really a cool thing to take from. So yes, basically we get to see that Asmodel's doing this, and while he's doing this, the chariot landing on Earth, apparently, I want to say move the moon from its orbit, and Superman has to use some of his electric powers to kind of put the moon back in orbit, which is really cool. It's a really cool scene. You can see that Martian Manhunter, being one of the strongest members of the Justice League, attacks Azmodal, but it hardly does anything. Basically, it doesn't even scratch him. And this is bad for Martian Manhunter because Martian Manhunter is weak against fire. So he basically doesn't have a chance. But this is when Superman arrives and he takes on Azmodal hand to hand. He starts wrestling him, and it's pretty funny scene because earlier in the story arc, we get to see this scene with Superman saying that he thinks that he can never live to people's expectations, and Flash clearly says that, you know, Superman fighting against Azmodal, an angel from the heavens, definitely lives up to his myth. So a pretty funny scene. After this, you know, they attack the chariot, they get inside of it, and they figure out how to turn it off and send it back to the heavenly realm, I'm guessing. So Azmodal, as well as all his angels, actually get sent back. And the story arc ends basically with everyone kind of like at peace again, and they go to the watchtower, and this is where they get attacked by a character that was introduced earlier in the story arc. This guy's named the Key. So this leads us into the final portion of the story arc, which is the Key basically mind controlling / mind hallucinations on all the Justice League members. You see multiple Justice League members in their own fantasy, I guess, or alternate reality, which is really cool. We get to see Superman be a Green Lantern. We get to see Batman retire, where he's Catwoman, and Tim Drake and Batman's own son being Batman and Robin, which is really cool. Alternative future, I guess you could say. But it's at this moment that Green Arrow's son, which I guess Oliver Queen died in this timeline, his son basically was recruited by the Justice League of America, or I believe that he was about to get recruited, so he heads up with the teleporter. And he finds that the Justice League are incapacitated, so he takes on the Key's minions, these robot type machines, and it's really cool to see him have to utilize different ways to fight against these machines with the different arrows. Eventually he comes across his dad's original arrow set, so he has to use all these wacky type arrows that he's not used to using. He does admit that his dad was very talented and a genius to be able to use some of these models of arrows. So basically we get told by the Key that he actually has achieved a level of intellect by acquiring more parts of his brain. It's about using about 90% of his brain, which has given him the ability of 11 senses, not 6. So that's pretty cool. I did like that they included that, because I believe they say we only use about 10% of our brain. So yeah, so basically they go back to Green Arrow, and Green Arrow's fighting against all of these machines still, and eventually the Flash escapes and attacks the Key, but the Key basically tells him that due to the stuff he put inside of his body, his machines that were giving him the serum to actually hallucinate hasn't ran its course through Flash's body, so he's not as fast as he usually is. This is where the Key basically is trying to go through a portal to become one with the universe or something like that, and it's really cool. Eventually all the Justice League members of America, they find out that they're under some type of hypnotic control, and that they're asleep. And this is the moment when they all realize that the Key is about to achieve his goal of becoming one with the universe or something. And this is where Green Arrow makes his debut. Basically is one shining moment where he uses the original Green Arrow, Oliver Queen's punching arrow, and this knocks out the Key, which is pretty lame. As it shows that the Key is not powerful at all. He just had intellect. So he definitely, dropped the ball on that one. He got defeated by Green Arrow's punching arrow, which is kind of sad. So they put basically the Key into like some sort of like mini coma / hypnotic state, to where he's always asleep, but he's actually enjoying his time asleep, I guess. He can do whatever he wants. We get to see this cool scene between Batman and Superman, where they have this little friendly banter, and the story arc ends with Superman leaving Batman, basically them having that little friendly encounter, and then we get to see that the Revenge Squad has been released. So I'm not sure what the Revenge Squad is. I guess we're gonna learn more about them in the next story arc, the Rock of Ages. I'm gonna get on to reading that so I can get the video out for you guys. But yeah, I hear Rock of Ages is actually a pretty good story arc. Overall, American Dreams is an okay story arc. Like I said, it's split up into like 3 different stories. Out of the 3, I want to say the one with the angels I enjoyed the most. I just enjoyed Asimov as a villain. I think that he definitely could have had an entire story arc to himself, and I wish that was what American Dreams was about. But you know, overall, okay, it wasn't horrible. I was expecting it to be horrible, and I heard that it was split into like 3 different sections. But they did an okay job, and I know that the story lines are gonna get a lot better after this. And this is like the only one people really have a problem with. So I'm looking forward to everything else after this. But until next time, guys. Like I said, I'm covering all of Grant Morrison's Justice League of America run, which covers 6 different story arcs. Right now we're on the 2nd video, so I'll have the 3rd video, Rock of Ages, out really soon in the next few days. And yeah, I can't wait for you guys to watch that. But if you haven't already, subscribe for more JLA videos, because I am going to be covering Grant Morrison and probably Mark Waid as well as the other stories in this run, if I do enjoy it enough. Also, I cover Marvel and DC, but I'm going to be covering some Image stuff in the future. But right now, I'm kind of just focusing on Marvel and DC. Remember, guys, God bless you, and until the next time, I'll see you guys on the next lesson. Goodbye.
I'm who I'm meant to be. I'm who I'm meant to be. Over and out again. My future needed clarity, so I could see how you